Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cats and Bolts podcast, the #1 Florida podcast. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. Where'd they go? Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome. Hey, there's Benny Castro. He made it through the holidays. Barely. You don't want to know what happened to him over there. I don't know. Glad you made it, Ben. Let's put it that way. Happy New Year. Welcome to Florida's favorite hockey show. As the man said, Rod, Sarina, we're ready to rock. Thank you, Florida hockey fans. We got big news coming down the pipe today. We're brought to you by Beach House Pompano and Boresco. When we have guests, they receive gift cards from Beach House Pompano and Boresco. And on January 22nd, write it down, Doug McLean will be with us, the original Stanley Cup Eastern Conference champion coach of the Florida Panthers. Sarina, how are you doing? Happy New Year.
Fantastic. I think Benny had a chance to save his voice a little bit over the holidays because he really, really ripped into that for us. It's fantastic.
Not as raspy as normal. So listen, just to tell you that we are up to date. Today, as we record this program, the National Hockey League announced that indeed the NHL is coming to Florida for outdoor games next year. January Winter Classic. It'll be the Panthers and the New York Rangers at Lone Depot Park, home of the Marlins. And then in February, it's going to be the Boston Bruins at the Tampa Bay Lightning in a Stadium Series game. We'll get to that as we roll along. But there are other things that I wanted to talk about today. We're calling it the halfway episode. Most teams have hit the halfway mark. Sarina, do you feel like this first half has gone fast, slow, long, average? What?
Last night watching hockey, they were talking about, well, we're halfway through the season. And I thought, I feel like we're further along than halfway. It just feels, I don't know, for some reason it feels like this has been a long season. But I also feel like we just got started on this podcast at the start of this season. Mm-hmm. So through the holidays, everything's kind of blown by.
Well, we have a lot to catch up on. But I guess when you follow the ups and downs of the teams and the scores on a nightly basis, it can seem long. I've enjoyed kibitzing with Panthers fans and Lightning fans sliding into our DMs. And what they love about us is we are hockey first. Because there are hockey fans down here. I'm not going to get into their stories, but they don't like that the rest of the media, as soon as the Dolphins do something, Tyreek Hill farts, they all drop everything and run down to Hard Rock Stadium. You know what I mean? Whereas we're hockey first. What?
Well, you can't blame them. If I was running a media conglomerate down here, the last thing I'd be talking about is hockey. Because the majority of the people want to talk about the Dolphins and the Heat.
There's no doubt. However, it's funny you say that because Adrian Rainey from the Rainy Day podcast, and we're going to get him in here. He lives in West Palm. He said to me at a Panthers game recently, I think you were there, he goes, you guys own the Panthers coverage, the Panthers crowd. And I'm like, good. Never thought of it that way, but that makes me very happy. Having said all that, as I get into the 9 topics, and at the end, if there's anything you'd like to cover, the floor will be yours. Yay. You're welcome. That's your New Year's gift.
Thanks.
We're starting with the Tampa Bay Lightning, just to throw you a bit of a curveball. Lightning snapped a 4-game slide coming into this week, beating Carolina at Amalie 3-2. They have I think it's the first wild card playoff berth as we sit here today and do this show. You still thinking they're going to make the playoffs or not? Yeah.
Absolutely. They lost a few games in a row, but I think they, like I've said the whole year, I think they have the ability to be a quality team. They have a lot of good players. And they're not a team that's going to start tanking. They have too good of a coach to do that.
Yeah, they never will tank. That's not in Tampa's DNA. But I will ask you this. I think it's going to go right down to the wire, whether they make the playoffs or not. And that's fun. And I'm on the record as saying they won't. So we'll stick with that and see how it goes. But they went winless in California. And I want to ask, you lived there for 10 years, being the hockey fan that you are. Is Cali coming back? Because you remember at one time, teams would go through there, San Jose, L.A., Anaheim. Nobody won. Those were all great teams for a long time. And they've been crappy now for a long time. Is Cali hockey coming back? Certainly not back now, but is it coming back?
It's going to take time. I mean, if we look at Anaheim's roster, they have a lot of really good young players. I think that once they kind of come into their own, and it's interesting with Anaheim getting Trouba, that's obviously not going to hurt them in any way, shape, or form. But is it coming back raging? No. The Kings, to be fair to the Kings, they've always been decent. They seem to squeak into the playoffs. This year, they're not having a terrible season. I think they're 2 or 4 points behind Edmonton at this point. I mean, they're not in a terrible position, but San Jose, they're that team that they were the bottom of the league for a couple years starting in a row. And now they're that team that's giving everybody a little bit of static when they go in and play. Edmonton beat them in overtime. I mean, Edmonton severely outplayed them that one game, but it's just been that one team that everybody's having a little bit of a battle with, and having a kid like Macklin Celebrini is going to help them down the road. And I think we're already starting to see the benefits of them having that first overall draft pick on their roster right away. Which conversely with Chicago, what happened with them with Bedard is Bedard got hurt in his first season. So it was almost like they had to take a step back. That's just my opinion, but I feel like San Jose is kind of going, okay, we're not terrible. We're not as good as the top teams in the league, but we're not awful.
You know, it's funny. I don't know what our viewers listen to on the radio on a daily basis. I know the hockey people here listen to NHL radio, and I consider myself one of those. And I also listen to Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk. That's my thing. But somebody was saying with the LA Kings, and you're wearing black and silver, so I thought there was an LA thing going on today. It just happened that way. You look very put together, but it's LA Kings colors, so.
I would literally never dress in Los Angeles Kings colors to come on this
you
podcast.
are wearing LA Kings colors, so just saying.
I never even thought of that when I put this outfit on for 1 second.
Hi, I did.
That's
Anyways, the pundits on there were saying we're headed towards an Oilers-Kings Stanley Cup playoff meeting again for the 90s.
Panthers, you mean?
Playoff series.
Oh, you said Stanley. Okay.
Kings, Oilers, again, because they meet every year.
Let's all relax. We're halfway through the friggin' season.
Right, but it just always seems to line up to that.
It does. It does. Like Edmonton and Dallas played 15 times in 10 years in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, it does get boring, and I don't want to see Florida, Tampa play each other in this playoffs again. I don't. I mean, I know that's what will build a rivalry, but when they were brawling at the last game before Christmas at the start of the homestand, I'm like, I don't want to pick a side. The fan bases were starting to snip back and forth. They were writing me. I'm like, I don't want to get involved in this. I want to cover both teams, not cheer for either. It's hard when they meet in the playoffs.
I get that completely, but I'm also the person that believes that I really wish that they would play by the divisions, just like they did back in the day when you had to get out of the Smythe division or you had to get out of the Norris division. I wish that's what we still did because you played those teams more often. I know we've had this conversation on here before. You play those teams more often, so you play them to get out of your division. It's obviously not like that anymore, but I never got bored with that. If Edmonton and Calgary played in the playoffs, great. Nobody got bored of that. And you never heard people complain about that
I didn't
30
say
years ago.
Lightning Panthers were a bad thing in the playoffs, just like Oilers Jets back in the day, or Oilers Flames. I'm saying it's bad. I'm saying I don't like it.
No, right. But
From my perspective, there's a difference.
Yeah, but again, this was not even a conversation 30 years ago. Nobody said, I'm really sick of these two teams playing each other in the playoffs because it was good series. Every series was a war back then. It's not quite like that anymore.
No series are.
No.
So it's just the game's different. So that part, I don't even think about that anymore. With the Panthers, by the way, as we sit here right now and do this show, 24-15-2. That's pretty damn good. That's 9 games above 500. 12th overall in the NHL, but that should tell you if you're paying real close, and if you read my South Florida Tribune column every week, we track it real close. They're slipping a bit. It was top 5, then it was 7-8. Now it's 12th. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It's just like we saw a stat last night that I think it's the last 25 games of the season. Edmonton's like 18-5-2. Vegas was like 18-6 and whatever. It was mostly teams in the West. It was Vegas, Edmonton, Colorado, I think Winnipeg. The top 6 teams, I think 5 out of the top 6 teams over the last 25 games are from the West. And I've always said the West is just stronger. There's a lot stronger teams, and it's just a battle out there. And you have teams over in the East like Boston. Watching Edmonton and Boston this week was like what was going on in Boston. It was embarrassing from a Bruins standpoint. And like I said, and I've said it again, and I still maintain this, you get 2 different Panthers teams. You get the team that like, they're going to win this game. And then you get the next team, you're like, how did they win that game? And then you get the team like, they ain't winning this game. So I guess there's 3, but realistically, they're one or the other that shows up. And I feel like a big part of it, you can see it with the Bruins, with Pasternak. Terrible. You can see it with the Rangers, with Panarin. Terrible. You can see it with the Panthers, with Barkov. He has not been terrible. I don't think he's ever been terrible in his life, but he's not the Barkov right now that he has been in the past. And I think that's a big difference. Look at Reinhart. Barkov's not Barkov, so guess what? Reinhart's not putting the puck in the net anymore. Period.
Yeah, and they're on Verhaeghe's ass that he hasn't been scoring a lot either.
I wonder why. Here, take a bunch of millions of dollars in the middle of the season, and I think you're going to play really well after. That's why people don't sign contracts in the middle of the friggin' season, because this stuff happens.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the way that they're doing it. I don't. What I have a problem with is that they're not playing the way we're used to. And what I mean by that, not the way that the Panthers played last year, but it's when you have a backup goalie in. Look, growing up, the sports I played were hockey, baseball, volleyball, badminton, curling. We're Canadian. What were the sports you played?
Hockey, volleyball.
Ball.
Well, yeah, we call it ball, fast pitch, as Americans would say. I curled for a little bit.
All the same sports as me. So I don't know how this relates to football. But when the backup goalie's in, everybody's supposed to play better. And I didn't play football, so I can't really sense what happened on the field when the backup quarterback went in. But with the Panthers, they don't play better when Spencer Knight goes in. They play at least the same or worse than when Bob's in. And everybody's on Spencer Knight's ass. And I don't know if this kid's going to be all that or not. What I'm saying is when he is out there, he doesn't seem to be getting a lot of help. And that's rare.
Very true. And I think that's a big problem that nobody's really talking about here, is that they're trying to give Spencer Knight a chance. The Panthers got steamrolled against Montreal. Montreal embarrassed them 4-0. You can't complain about your goaltender if you don't put the puck in the net. If you score this many goals, how dare you? That's another night the Panthers got booed. Fans were booing them, and we're not having this conversation. It's fine. If you want to boo, I don't really care. But that was another night that they got booed. Don't boo that goaltender. It ain't his fault. All the shots were not his fault. Or scoring chances.
I'm trying to stick to a script, and it's on me that we're not, and that's actually a good thing. It's got nothing to do with you. You're being you, which is what we encourage.
So not true when he says it at home.
I largely want her to be herself. Sometimes I say as we're driving up to the studio, can you keep a lid on some shit here? What?
That's the first time Rod swore. Ding, ding, ding.
No,
Where's that bell? Ding,
I've
ding,
said
ding.
that before.
Even Ben was like, that's the first time Rod's... Yeah, there we go.
Not that big of a deal. But when I was hard on the Panthers recently in one of the games, because they haven't been great at home. You watch the games. They haven't been great at home. There's some games on the road they've been stinkers too. But David in Utah watches this show every week. He's from Fort Lauderdale originally, and he started out loving us. And then the more he watched the show, he started to not really like you at all. And he was like, you guys have lots of stuff to poke at the home team on your Panthers podcast. I'm like, it doesn't say Panthers anywhere. It says Cats and Bolts podcast. We're not a Panthers affiliated show. So we're going to say what we think. And that's why you're still watching David and everybody else. And you said, tear me loose on that guy. Turn me loose on that guy.
Well, first of all, if you guys are going to comment or message us, feel free. This is a free country. I will never get mad for people messaging us. You absolutely have every right to speak your truth. But the fact that the Panthers I don't even think that game was over against Montreal, and we were getting messages, well, now you guys are going to have a lot to blast the Panthers about on your Panthers podcast. It's our podcast. We can say whatever we want. If we want to talk about Tyreek Hill, that's what we're going to talk about. Number 2, I'm not coaching the team. If you don't like what I have to say about the team, I don't really care, because it's not my fault they lost 4-0 to Montreal. It's not my fault they're booing the team in the rink. It's not my fault they come out as a stinker. So be pissed off. Why don't you call Paul Maurice and say, hey, why don't you get it together? Got to get together on the power play. Like, this isn't Slapshot. You don't get to walk up to people. I don't care. Say your piece, but dude, do not come at us because of something we said because the Panthers lost. Everybody knows I'm not a Panthers fan. I'm an Oilers fan. There's one team. But I have never come on here and talked mad shit about them as an organization. So chill.
Yeah, that's the opportunity I wanted to give you. I mean, I like the Panthers because they've treated us great. But I will flip to the Lightning in like that. And you know that because you've seen me do it.
Sure, so. and I don't. And if I had to choose between the two, I prefer the Lightning. But again, I don't come on here and talk mad shit. I'm a realist. I've talked as much shit about the Oilers as I have the Panthers. I'm a realist, and I say what's on my mind, and I say what's happening. It's not my fault if the Panthers have a bad game and you don't like it, so you're going to come at me because you have nobody else to bitch about. It's like bitching about the president. Fucking shut up about it already.
Well, and that's all I can say. I want the Panthers to win because it's a lot nicer when the teams are winning around here. When they're upset and Paul Maurice is snarly and snapping at the media, which incidentally he does, it's not pleasant to be around. So I want them to win.
But on another note, here's exactly what I said to you after you read that to me, after that 4-0 loss to Montreal. The first thing out of my mouth was, why do we have viewers attacking us angrily when Paul Maurice wasn't even as angry? We were in the press conference after, and the first thing out of his mouth when we talked about Montreal rookie getting a shutout. First game, gets a shutout. First thing out of Paul Maurice's mouth. Good for him. I'm really happy for him. And the better team won, and the team that plays better should win. So why can we not all act like adults? Why do we all have to piss and stamp our feet and get upset? Because, again, it's like nobody outside of Florida cares about the Panthers or the Lightning. They just don't. So relax. You don't have to be so fucking sensitive about everything.
Now, whoop. You like that, Benny?
I gotta get some.
Do you have any thought? Hey,
I gotta get some sound effects for you guys.
Put yourself on the camera. How do you like the show so far, Ben?
You know, as always, it's always entertaining with you guys here.
Spicy.
Yeah.
You'd think we rehearsed it. I mean,
we
should maybe, huh?
This show is so hot that Ben's chest hair grows during the show.
I like it. All right. Let's see where this goes. The NHL has officially announced that the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers will play host to the New York Rangers at Lone Depot Park in Miami, home of baseball's Marlins, on January 2nd, 2026 in the Winter Classic, with the Tampa Bay Lightning playing host to the Boston Bruins at Raymond James Stadium on February 1st, 2026 in a Stadium Series game. Sarina's favorite person, Commissioner Gary Bettman, said, quote, Stanley Cups, strings of sellouts, and the exponential growth of youth and high school hockey throughout the state have demonstrated that Florida is a hockey hotbed. Outdoor NHL games in the Sunshine State? Never let it be said that our league isn't willing to accept a challenge. There's more. Go to rodpeterson.com, my daily updated website for coverage of that. Can I just stop before she craps all over everything? I'm very excited. I want to be in Lone Depot Park. I'm going to be driving with Brent and RJ, and you if you want, and Bree over to Tampa Bay to watch the outdoor game over there. I'm excited, pleased as hell. I think it's awesome. She's not alone in thinking these are gimmicks and not being that excited. I can't speak. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll let you roll, and then I'll tell you what some of the other hockey fans have to say about this announcement today that would support your take.
Well, I've read a lot of people's comments online and stuff. And I mean, the whole outdoor game is old. I've said that a million times. The last one in Chicago at Wrigley Field had the lowest viewership ever. I guarantee there was probably 5 times more people watching a World Junior Hockey game in Canada than there was that game because no one cares anymore. It's old. It's outdone. That's, I think, the general consensus of people. But also, too, my viewpoint is this. You can't have a winter classic in Florida. It's stupid. Come up with something else, fine, whatever. But here's my thing. I read something someone said. There was a couple of comments that I read online, and I agree with them wholeheartedly. And far be it from me to agree with a Canucks fan, because there's something else too. But literally one guy was like, Vancouver's been in one outdoor game and it was 12 years ago. Chicago's been in 7. Can we please pick other teams and maybe come north of the border for some of these games? Like, why are we doing all this stuff in the U.S.? And another, obviously, Canadian person was like, yeah, great idea. Put everything south of the border. Make sure everybody down there makes a bunch of money, because in Canada, we don't like any fun. And I laughed out loud so hard. It was so funny. But everybody just has this opinion of that same thing. And you get the people that are like, Gary Bettman hates Canada and whatever, and he doesn't support it. Because, again, explain to me why there's only been a handful of outdoor games, whether you want to call it the Winter Classic or the whatever. You put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Why are we not promoting this in other places that are actually winter climates? It's stupid. It's just, but it's because I don't like Gary Bettman, obviously, but him saying, oh, Florida's a hockey hotbed. He said the same shit when I lived in California. He said the same speech. It's growing in the high schools and the Junior Hockey Association and all that crap. He said the same thing because you know what? He wanted people to believe it. So he's saying the same thing here. He's saying the exact same thing because he wants people to believe it. It's a money-making thing.
What's wrong with that? You have something against making money?
It's a business. I get that completely. But again, the Canadian teams are battling the dollar. Every single day they battle the dollar. Why not give them a chance to make some money back and do that? Yeah. Look at what it did for the city of Edmonton, having that outdoor game between Edmonton and Calgary. A lot of people went, 60,000 people at that stadium. It's a completely different vibe. So why are you pushing it where it doesn't need to be?
Well, so that's her take. And just so you know, some guy wrote into my TV show, the RP show, Rod Peterson show. I'm wearing the shirt today because I like it, and it's Panthers colors. But the guy said, outdoor games should be played where there's snow and ice in Canada. It's kind of what you just said. It's a summary of all of that, plus the monetary infusion in the markets. I just said to the guy, the NHL doesn't agree, bro. Period. I think it's going to be fun as hell going into Lone Depot Park. So they're saying they're going to play the game at night. The roof will be closed. They'll be pumping up the air conditioning to make it cold. And then at night, they're going to open the roof, and it will indeed be an outdoor game. I think it's going to be a spectacle. I think it's great. So we don't agree. Period. The NHL doesn't agree, obviously, with your take, and they don't agree with Kirk in Toronto. So here we go. As I said, I have a sense that you won't be going to the games.
I said this a million friggin' times when people ask me, when there was an outdoor game in California when I lived there, I didn't go because I don't care. I don't need the pomp and circumstance around hockey. I just want to watch the friggin' game. I don't need all that bullshit. I like to watch hockey. I get that it's different here. People like when we go to Tampa, it's loud, the way they bring the crowd in. It's like an experience.
It's insane.
Like, I get that. That's totally fine. I don't care. And I think they're doing a really good job there, but I just want to watch hockey. I don't need all the razzle-dazzle bullshit that comes along with it now.
And that's just the way a lot of hockey fans are, but I watched the outdoor game. I asked her to switch over from the World Juniors, which we're going to get to in a second to talk about. But I said, can we flip it over to the outdoor game? It was New Year's Eve. And I enjoyed looking at the spectacle that was Wrigley Field. And obviously, I'm a big fan of Chicago's Connor Bedard. The game was awful. I like to see how's the lighting. It was quite dark in there. It looked crappy that way. I like to see what are the jerseys. Chicago's jersey I thought was awesome. The Blues I didn't care for. We talked about. I like that. And then, of course, she's like, can I switch it? Can we switch it back? Sure. Happy wife, happy life. I'm not going to fight over that. So I like the spectacle of it all. I'll watch a cartoon game. I'll go watch under eights play. I like it too, just like her, but I'm not anti-outdoor game. So
yeah, like I said, I just don't like the spectacle. It's like when the All-Star game was here and the crap on the beach and all that ridiculousness.
Well, that was bad.
That's what but why? Why was it bad?
Yeah, I know. No, you know what I'm going to say. It wasn't hockey. It was stupid. You're shooting pucks at surfboards. You're chipping hockey pucks onto a green. What are you doing?
That's my
point. So they screwed it up.
This is, again, so it's like, so why are we trying to force
because the whole
something?
idea is the concept of outdoor hockey is the roots of the game. That's the difference. Not Florida. Shooting at surfboards.
No. Completely agree. But it's just my point. It's just, it's been done. It's done too much.
Yeah, that's fine. You gotta make ice in Canada outdoors, just like they're going to have to make ice here. It's not natural.
Not just like. It's not just like.
In the NHL rinks, it is. The outdoor stadiums, it is.
Sure, but the ground's a lot colder up there. That's what people don't understand. This is a swamp. Yeah. Somebody was like, well, I live in South Florida and it gets to like 60s to the 40s at night. Right now it does when we're having a cold snap. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be 75 degrees at night.
It's probably not going to be cold when they play this.
Yeah, like it's just my whole, just enough already.
We covered it. Oh, hey, we have a year of hype. Okay.
Yeah. Can we please make a note to not talk about this again for another year?
Actually, no.
Dude, I can't talk about it.
It's the Florida NHL show, and Florida's hosting 2 NHL outdoor games. So,
well, we've talked about it ad nauseum.
And we will talk about it more. Now, you mentioned living in California. The Calgary-LA game this week was postponed because of the California fires. And I have a friend that was affected. You probably have several friends affected. I was just with her Tuesday night. She was out here in Florida while her house was threatened. And did I tell you that her house did get hit?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, beside herself. And you said that's just a thing in California. What's it like? I've never lived there, so I can't imagine what they're going through.
Yeah, by no means do I want anybody to think I'm trying to undermine that. It's not just a thing. That's not what I mean by that. It's extremely tragic. And almost every year that I lived in California, there were wildfires, and they come quick, and you never know where they're going to hit. And it tends to always be places like Malibu, Pacific Palisades, where people have a lot of money. So that's why it gets gnarly, because there's a lot of trees around there. So like, the projects and stuff are like in Compton. There's nothing to burn. Everything's concrete. So that's why there's always these issues, and it's so dry in California. It's just extremely unfortunate. And you just, it's like my dad has no concept of geography. So he'd be like, yeah, you anywhere near them fires? I'm like, no. Like, I live at the beach like 60 miles away. Like, I'm like, no, I appreciate the thought, but yeah, it's terrible.
I should clarify, when I came home, you weren't being flippant about it. You were like that panic and terror that my friend Michelle was dealing with. You're like that. They go through it every year. The people that live in that, it would be horrible.
It's just one of those things I honestly don't even like to think about because of the things that I saw. Just people trying to get out with their animals, their horses, it's so tragic.
You've lived here long enough that I feel like everybody jokes, not just you and me, but if a storm's coming, you see, the hurricanes that we see, it's, well, pack up, get the water, get the charger, and get ready to hunker down. It's a little different.
The problem with the wildfires is they can turn. So that's why if you guys ever see people that are like, why didn't they get out sooner? Because they didn't know. It'll turn in a dime. If the wind changes direction, if there's a spark, it can turn. That's why it's very difficult for firefighters to fight this. And there's literally nothing you can do.
Prayers for them. It's tough, and as I said, the big enough deal that the Kings would move the game against the Calgary Flames, or at least postpone it because of what their city was dealing with, or the region. While we're here, some of you will know, some won't. USA won the World Junior Hockey Championship for the second consecutive year, and I think 3 of the last 4. They beat Finland in overtime of the World Junior Hockey Championships in Ottawa. Sarina watched almost every game.
Yeah. I do. I love those games.
So
that's pure hockey right there. That's why I like to watch it. When Rod's like, can you turn it over to the thing? I was like, are you joking me? Like, you want me to turn, I think it was like Finland and the Slovaks. And I'm like, this game is unbelievable. And you want me to change it, or whoever? I forget who was playing. Okay, for like a minute. But that's just, it's pure hockey at that level. It's so good.
Well, are those your thoughts? That's your recap of everything?
Well, I mean, listen, the people watching this, if they're Canadian, they already know every single thing that happened in every single game. The Americans, if they don't know, it's because they don't care. So I don't really want to spend a lot of time on this because our viewers just don't give a shit.
Totally fine. But are you realizing, everybody, that I'm a real you do you thing, whatever makes you happy? I feel like she's not as much. Like, our friend Jeff, probably watching right now, has not missed one episode of this show. Probably the biggest junior hockey fan I know. We were talking on the phone on Saturday while you were watching a game. He is like, once Canada's out, I'm not really interested. I'm like, yeah, me either. Is that okay? We're both hockey fans, but not as interested if Canada's not in. I don't think that makes us lesser people or fans. That's where we differ.
No. Whoa. We don't necessarily differ in that regard. I give way less shits. Because as Canadians, if we don't win the gold, we don't care. We don't care. To me, in a game like hockey, you don't win silver. I hate when they say, oh, Sweden won silver last year. No, you bitch, you didn't win silver. You lost gold. You lost gold. It's crap. It's a lie. You don't win silver. But my point is, once Canada's out, I don't really care. However, my favorite game of the tournament every year is the Swedes and the Finns. And they happen to be playing on Saturday in one of the semifinals. And that's why I was watching.
And that's when we were on the phone.
Yeah.
Jeff and I.
Yeah.
And we're like, Canada's out. We don't care. Would you agree? I'm still trying to figure things out, but I feel like the furor in Canada over winning gold or not is like college football here. Like everybody's up in arms if their team doesn't achieve what they expected to achieve.
I don't know.
But for 2 weeks.
I think it's apples and oranges because it's just different. You have a whole country. I mean, there's millions of people clawing at these 18-year-old kids and their coaching staff and who picked the team and whatever. I mean, and then the prime minister is deciding he's going to resign from whatever the hell. I'm like, I wonder who's the most hated person in Canada right now. Is it Prime Minister Trudeau or is it Dave Cameron? And I think it's up in the air.
I was the coach of Canada who shit the bed.
Literally, people were out for blood, and they still are. So I don't think it's the same just because it's little different allegiances when you're talking about your country versus your college. Just slightly.
Like I say, but USA won it. So there you go. John Van Beesbrook, the Panthers' greatest, high up there with USA hockey. He's got a home here in Boca, from what I understand. So frankly, one of my goals is to get him on the air. I'm still figuring out who lives here. My God, Joe Girardi is a member at the gym that I go to. I just figured that out the other day. That's damn exciting. So
I would sacrifice some hockey talk to get Joe Girardi on this podcast.
Would you?
Oh, are you kidding me? Listen, the guy's a baseball manager. You know he's got an opinion about hockey. I would love to get his opinion about living in New York and just the hockey scene there.
Peoria, Illinois is where he's from. Joe Girardi's cool as shit. He's a great, really nice guy. I will say this about a lot of the people in sports. You were talking about this with Dale Talon. Most are good guys.
Yeah, Dale's like, we were talking about hockey guys. He goes, listen, most hockey guys are good guys. It's like, they really are. They really are. Everybody I'd like go up and talk to about being on our podcast, some of them don't live here. So they're like, listen, I don't even live there. It's not really my thing, whatever.
I'm not going to beg him, right?
Yeah, but at least they're willing to have the conversation.
But it looks like Ben has something to say.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I got really close with his son, Joe Girardi's son. He used to go to the bagel shop.
Stop it.
Yeah, all the time. His
Benny boy.
family's amazing.
You're holding out on us?
I didn't know you got. I mean, yeah. Tell let him know and
tell him Ben sent you.
I guess he's got a daughter named Serena. Did you know that?
Come on.
Yeah.
She's great at basketball.
How's it spelled?
No, not like
not
you.
like
It's like
Ben
Serena
Stone,
Williams.
Same name.
So once I was telling people, leave yourself off here, Ben. Once I was telling people that I ran into Joe Girardi. No, leave yourself on the screen. At the gym, people were flooding my other talk show with stories about him. And I guess he got braces when Serena got braces as a teenager just so she wasn't alone.
Yeah, he's an amazing.
Who does that?
Great guy.
Very
I love
special
that.
guy.
Very
I love
family
that.
guy. He's actually really good friends with right next door. Our people over there.
Of course he is. Our
Tom
financial
Archer.
Tom
people.
Archer.
Yeah, because he's got a lot of money.
Yeah, but they work. Yeah, so
We don't work with Tom Archer. He's a financial guy.
We know him, though.
Yeah.
Okay, what other cool people do you know? Michael Vick was here, but he's moved because he's coaching college football now.
Yeah, we have a lot of UFC fighters.
Everybody lives here.
Everyone, yeah.
All the cool kids.
Yep.
Okay, well, I had notes they can push till next week.
No, what else we got?
No.
One
They're
more.
kind of boring compared to everything else we've been talking
Can I
about.
be the judge?
They're right here. First half pleasant surprises and first half disappointments. Can you wrap it up in 60 seconds or less?
Pleasant surprises. Vegas, Colorado, disappointments. Boston, the Rangers.
Disagree. Vegas is the number one team overall in the NHL, and they're always going to be. How's that a surprise?
Watching them play. When they won the Stanley Cup, they were the best team. Last year, they weren't even close to the best team. This year again, now they're back to that being close to the best team.
Okay.
I know you weren't at the game, but I saw at that game what I saw in the Stanley Cup final here, and I was like, oh boy, these fuckers are back.
Oh, Canada. My surprises are Montreal, Calgary, and Ottawa. And the biggest disappointments are Detroit, New York Rangers, and unfortunately Chicago, because I thought they'd be better. Boom, that was easy.
Oh, I wish every episode went like this. Here, you have 60 seconds to talk. Rod wrapped it up in 10. Beautiful.
All right. We're out of here. See you, everybody, at the rink. Thanks for watching Cats and Bolts podcast. Be good to yourself. Tell your friends. We'll see you next week.
Oh, fuck, he got drilled.
Really close.
I will probably...